Hi friends, Jason here again. Today we're going to be working on maintenance items for your Subaru. This includes specifically naturally aspirated FB engines, Subaru Imprezas, Outback, Crosstreks, Foresters, Legacies. All right, here's the engine bay. It's a little bit more modified than your typical Subaru. However, the parts that I'm going to be talking about can be found on all Subaru engines of the FB type. First things first, like every time we talk about Subarus and their longevity, it's going to come down to the oil. You're going to want to change your oil with full synthetic every 5,000 miles. I use 5W30. Some people in colder climates, it's recommended to use the 0820. And so just change your oil. So what happens with the people that like to drive harder than normal drivers, you're going to get some oiling issues. That's going to come as a higher oil consumption because it's pushing the oil out somewhere. And you're going to get some leaking at the valve cover and the cam carriers. You know, it doesn't burn oil and doesn't have a head gasket issue like those older EJs. Basically, when you have problems with this engine, it's going to be consuming more oil than normal. Your oil light on your dash will occasionally pop up. And that means that it's getting to the point where the sensor says, hey, I could use some oil, right? As soon as that sensor goes off, go ahead, buy some oil, like a quart, and fill it up. Fill up the quart or 3/4 of that quart. Get in there and fill it up when you see that light. I'm very happy after that. I think the weather's changing and people are noticing some changes in their cars. And most people have been talking about, these P codes, and I wanted to share some information that I learned along the way while maintaining my own car. I don't take it to the dealership, very much anymore. I've only owned this car for like 6 years now, but after the second year, I started doing my own maintenance and kind of learning along the way. So here is a factory intake, so to speak, on top of my existing intake, and I just wanted to use this for demonstrative purposes. Because there's a couple of places in an FB engine that you may want to maintain with like a 2.5, or you might have a 2 liter. And for some people, you guys even have like 1.6 engines in other parts of the world. But the premise is the same. 3 places that you're going to want to check and clean periodically are the MAF sensor, the throttle body, and then down there, the PCV valve. Those are 3 things that you're going to want to clean every other oil change, or every oil change if you so desire. It's just preventative maintenance. So the first one that you can do is the MAF sensor, and I have here the original stock airbox with the original MAF mounting position. Unscrew the MAF sensor that goes, there's 2 Phillips head screwdriver heads there. You'd unscrew it, and then you would unplug the sensor here, and then you would pull the sensor out. And what it looks like is basically a plastic housing with a wire running through it. And that wire reads the temperature and a lot of different things actually in the pipe. How much volume of air, how much air is passing through here at any given moment. And that wire can become a little bit, dirty depending on how clean your air filter is. So if you're having any of those troubles with rich or lean codes, you may want to try cleaning your mass airflow sensor. Okay, so number 2. So this is the stock intake box. There's a pipe that runs from here, the top of the block, this hose here. It goes into the head of the block, and it pumps out blow-by gas, also known as crankcase ventilation, CCV. And in the stock setup, you have a pipe that runs right into here, this baffle box, right? And this box is a unit which filters out kind of blow-by air and gas before it's passed in back through the hole there. right? And then it goes into your throttle body. This is the throttle body right there. And that's where there's the butterfly valve, right? And so when you have air and oil and gases flowing through this baffle box and back through this intake and into your throttle body, then you may have some slightly gumming up of the throttle body, the butterfly valve, the pin that rotates on an axis to open and close the butterfly valve might have some of that sticky oil residue. So you want to clean the throttle body. Take the intake off. You know, if I have that, my aftermarket one, I take that off. And I just take the can and I just spray it back into it, blind. Close your eyes, just spray and pray. Do that a couple times, let it dissolve, let it soak in, and then let it dry after you've done, like, I don't know, 2 blasts, 3 blasts, 4 blasts, however many it needs, right? You can take a camera and back face it so that you can see what's going on. But somebody shared a picture with me of theirs, and I was like, wow, that's pretty gunky, right? So what are the symptoms for that one? It's going to feel like hesitation at a certain RPM range while you're pressing the accelerator, like fluttering. And you know, when you roll through that RPM range, it feels like, oh, it's stuttering, right? So this is a good place to clean if you have that kind of symptom. It'll alleviate bad idles sometimes. So, you know, spray and pray. The third one is down here. It's called the positive crankcase ventilation valve, PCV valve for short. It's also known affectionately as a rattle valve because when it works properly, it rattles. And the PCV is in charge of also crankcase ventilation, but just on the other side of the engine. And it also sprays mists of oil and residue and things like that. And guess where that goes, guys? It goes directly into your intake manifold through this pipe right here. Right now I have an air oil separator hooked up to it to help clean that, but even with this air oil separator, I still need to clean that PCV valve down there. I thought I didn't have to, but yeah, that's something that you have to do once in a while. So down there, you pull that hose off, 19 millimeter bolt, and then you take the valve and you spray it with brake cleaner, honestly. And then you spray it with brake cleaner again, and you shake the valve. You shake it until it starts rattling. It makes this click, click, click sound. Once it's clean, it'll rattle nice and free. If it's clogged, you won't even hear it move, right? And that's going to cause some of that extra air pressure to not be able to return to the intake manifold when you're under load or on idles. So that's going to clean up a lot of the ventilation and plumbing for your engine. So that's it. To recap, we talked about 3 different places that you can check as regular maintenance so that your car is running healthy. It's the MAF sensor, your throttle body, and your PCV valve. Okay, look at this engineering versus this engineering here. Which one would you say is better engineering? If you said this one, you're incorrect. This is raw and it works. You get more direct torque with a solid tube. This, however, is the OEM intake, and this thing is full of engineering genius. Here it's made out of silicone, right? So it has some vibration dampening and sound insulation built in, right? This thing is an accordion joint and it helps with flex. So when the engine is vibrating, it isolates it from the airbox and vibrating there. This thing is a built-in resonator. It allows the air to go through here and then through here in a separate channel, and it cancels out a lot of noise, right? It also acts as sort of like an extra volume of air, and a part of that is they call them like torque boxes. That resonator adds a extra volume to this intake. So here you'll notice inside there's also some more baffling and different passages, right? And maybe this is also another torque box in terms of adding volume, but it also acts as a baffle to catch some of the oil mist from your crankcase ventilation. I'm gonna kind of make an analogy here. When you're on the OEM intake, it's kind of like playing the bagpipes, right? You got that reservoir of air that you're squeezing through the orifices, right? And then you have this thing, which is more of like a direct pipe. It's more of like a trumpet. You know, like the tube is a lot shorter, more rigid, and the sound is different, as well as the intake and output characteristics of the car. It makes the car breathe and vibrate and resonate at a different frequency. So, that's a lot of engineering. So this is, known to be very reliable for how the engine and exhaust are tuned with the factory tune. It's all balanced out with this thing here. Okay. So when you add things like these, you're gonna run into some vacuum problems and fitment issues and vibration issues. It's fun if you know what you're doing, but it can be kind of troublesome when you do change something and you don't know what the causes of certain problems are. Most of the time, they're these like little vacuum leaks or incorrect sensor readings or mechanical, movement being impeded by scum, and then also more scum down there, right? So, yeah, some regular maintenance on your automotive parts. It's a working machine. You just got to keep those parts like moving. And now, hopefully, you'll saw and learned that there are some extra parts that you may need to maintain outside of your regular oil and air filter changes. Sometimes I wonder why I even did this.